Covenant is the sequel to Prometheus, which is the prequel to the original Alien films. This one has a whole new cast except for Michael Fassbender, but Ridley Scott is back to direct. And this movie basically follows this colonization mission on board the ship called the Covenant. They're going to this planet because it seems like it's habitable for Earthlings like us, but then all of a sudden there's some space complications and they realize, oh, there's another planet that just so happens to be very close to us that is also habitable. Let's go check that out. But once they get there, they realize maybe this wasn't the best place to stop at in the first place, and that might have to do with something involving the alien xenomorph we've loved over the years, maybe, possibly. And this movie's also trying to answer the unanswered questions you might have had at the end of the Prometheus film. The Alien series I'm sort of a fan of. Alien and Aliens, great films, they're terrific. Alien 3, however, and 4, and Alien vs. Predator, Alien vs. Predator Requiem, not so much, but Prometheus, I actually thought that movie was really underrated. This movie is still polarizing to people, and I honestly don't see why. I thought it was really daring, and it was actually pretty smart except for those two scientist characters that were pretty horrible, actually. But other than those two characters, Prometheus I thought was a really smart film that I don't think gets enough credit. And when I heard Ridley Scott was going to come back to continue the Prometheus storyline, but also combine it with the Alien film tone that we know and love, I was really excited to see what he could do, because Ridley Scott is a really talented director. When he gets it right, he gets it right. And walking out of this film, I honestly didn't know what to think of it. And right now, I have a grade in mind, but I'm not sure if I'm gonna stick with it. So, excuse me if this review seems a little bit more unstructured compared to some of my other reviews, but I need to really piece together what I liked and what I didn't like and how it's going to affect my grade. This is definitely going to be a polarizing movie. It already is polarizing, but walking out of this movie I was like, oh yeah, definitely polarizing with people. When I walked out of Prometheus, I was like, how is this polarizing to some? I really like that. Now with this movie, I'm like, oh, okay, I'm not sure what to think. So the first factor I want to bring up is the acting. How is the acting in this movie? Top notch. Everyone is doing an excellent job in this film, bringing the real suspense and terror in their performances. And there's really no actor in this movie that stoops to the lows of those two characters in Prometheus, if you know what I mean, or any character in Alien 3 or 4. Everyone does a great job in this film. However, character-wise, there's not much going on here. Catherine Waterston, the main character, you might recognize her from Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them. She was okay in this movie. It's a really weird balance because acting-wise she's good, but then character-wise there's something tragic that happens to her in the very first scene she's in, and I was like, oh, okay, how is this going to hinder on the rest of the plot, on her motivations later on? And it barely felt like a thing by the end of the movie. I didn't feel like she went through any arc. It just felt like another attempt at a Ripley character, just not as cool as Ripley, or not even as cool as Shaw from Prometheus. Some people online have been saying that one of the standouts of this movie was Danny McBride, and I will admit that yes, Danny McBride surprised me in this film, because normally Danny McBride just does his shtick that he does in some of his comedies, but in this film he is a little bit more of the comedic relief. He's got some jokes, but his performance is more mature, and I would really love to see Danny McBride do another role similar to this, but just with more character. That's really my main problem. What's really holding him back from being one of the standouts is that character-wise, what's his character? His name is Tennessee. He's got a cowboy hat. That's it. There's also a captain character played by Billy Crudup, and he has some problems with being the captain of this Covenant ship that I won't spoil, but I thought once I heard what was going on, what I was seeing, I was like, okay, how is this going to affect his motivations later on in the film? Once again, barely felt like a big deal. It felt like an incomplete arc. It really didn't feel like he was going through any changes throughout at all. There's only one character in this film that was actually interesting and getting me invested in their subplot, and that character is, of course, Michael Fassbender. In this film, he plays the android Walter, and I really love Michael Fassbender in Prometheus, so when I heard that he was coming back to play this android, I was like, okay, I want to see where else this can go. Is David gonna come back from Prometheus? And I loved what they did with his subplot. I'm not gonna spoil anything with him because he is just... there is so much going on with his subplot. You can literally make a video just talking in depth about everything going on with him because he's that intriguing in this film. So the android character is the best character in this film, while you have the human characters who are just... they felt like they were just there, and there's so many human characters, so many. Compared to the good Alien movies, Alien, Aliens, and Prometheus, this is definitely the weakest in regards to just characters. So already we have an off balance going on there. I want to bring up another factor in this film, and that is the overall plot. It's very hard to escape the fact that this is just a typical alien formula going on here. They're in a ship, they come down to this planet that's unbeknownst to them, they start exploring, they find some weird crap, and that weird crap tries to kill them later on. We've seen this before, and I think that's why, and I'm going to bring up another thing here, I think that's why the pacing for the first 1/3 and some of the second third was really off. And I say parts of the second third because the first third is pretty much what I just described. They're in space, something happened, they have to come down to this planet and they start exploring. We've seen all of that before, and they don't really do much new here, just it's a new planet. So a lot of it just felt like they were just retreading through the similar formula that we've gone through before. Then the second third of this film, they have a certain meeting, I won't say anything else other than that, and they start to talk a little bit about one certain thing, and I was like, this is actually really cool. They cut away from that to show somebody else who's not as cool, and it's like, okay, I really don't want to see this, I want to focus on this other thing, and they'll just keep cutting through that for the second third. The third is actually the best part of this film, because the third is when the suspense was high and the gore was up. The movie got really creepy up at that point, and I was really digging that last third, even though there's something in it that was very predictable. They tried to pull a trick that I honestly thought of as soon as they introduced something like an hour ago in this film. I was like, I bet they're gonna do something involving this. And then later on, they showed a certain shot and I was like, okay, that's what they did. They waited about like 15 more minutes to actually reveal it, and I was like, dude, I called that! This is not a big reveal! But other than that, the third is definitely the best part of this film. Second third is a mixed bag. First third, I honestly was kind of bored through it because you have no characters that are really cool or interesting going on except for Michael Fassbender, who had the best performance. But these characters are also just going through the motions of, oh, we're in a ship, and let's go down to this planet, let's go explore. Like, we've seen this before, let's do something new. Which is why, I don't mean to get sidetracked real quick, but this is why I was so excited when they were talking about, oh hey, Neil Blomkamp might actually get rid of Alien 3 and Alien Resurrection and make his own Alien sequel to Aliens. And I was like, okay, that could be awesome, because Neil Blomkamp is a pretty good director, and if you're going to continue the Alien story, this is a chance to do something new, introduce some new concepts, see where else Ripley can go with. I think they were going to bring back Newt and the android from Aliens in that movie. I was actually really excited to see what they could do, but then Ridley Scott had to come in and go, no, we have to do my Prometheus sequel first, and then you can do yours. And now we don't even know if Neil Blomkamp's movie is even happening, which is honestly, it's kind of sad, because that was their chance to start introducing new things to the series and like make it feel fresh again. And in Alien Covenant, it's basically just a lot of the same old for the majority. And I'm not trying to take anything away from Ridley Scott in this movie, because his direction, for the most part, is really good. The first third still does feel really slow, but visually it is gorgeous to look at. And the planet they go to, I think they went to an actual location, but the cinematography for that planet does look really good. The set design, once again, it looks great. I don't think I need to mention the set design, because Ridley Scott puts so much attention to the details of everything going on, and it does look superb. Your eyes are just instantly drawn to the set surrounding him. So from that visual perspective, like the set design and the planet cinematography, this movie is so good. I think Ridley Scott's direction could have been better as far as the first third, making it feel like it had a quicker pace, and also trying to create new things with the story. But when some creepy scenes start to go down, Ridley Scott's direction was at its best. Like, for example, you've seen it in the trailer when that thing is popping out of that dude's back. That is creepy, man. And there's also other creepy things that happen in this movie. One of the creepiest things I've ever seen in my life are those frickin' face huggers, and when they showed up, I was like, oh crap, and I started to squirm in my seat. Those look really good. I think that was practical effects for the most part too, which is really impressive. And also another thing that's one of the creepiest things I've ever seen in movies are the actual xenomorphs themselves. I've always been creeped out by those things in Alien and Aliens, and I was really excited to see what they were gonna do with it in Alien Covenant, because a lot of the marketing was hindering on the fact that the aliens, they're here, that's what this movie's all about. First off, it's really not. They really only show up near like the end of the second third, which is fine, but really don't promote it so much in your marketing, because they really did, I don't mean to burst anyone's bubble, but they really did spoil a lot in those trailers without anyone really noticing. And second of all, The CGI for them is really bad. Okay, maybe really bad is kind of a stretch because it wasn't like the worst thing ever, but I'm watching them and I'm thinking that is a visual effect. Like, there's really no shot with the alien where I was thinking that is impressive. Okay, wait, there's one, the shower scene. Other than that, there's really no shot with the alien that I thought, man, that looks real, that's coming right at that person right now, that seems like it's actually there. It honestly looked pretty fake to me. And I don't know if this is a problem for anyone else, but it seemed like it was moving faster than the alien in Alien. And I know Alien came out first and they were using an actual dude in a suit, so of course it's going to be slower and it's not going to be fast, but all things considered, Alien is terrifying because of that costume and its practical effect and how slow it went. In this movie, when it's moving so fast, it honestly kind of took away some of the scares for me. I don't know if that's a thing for anyone else. Sure, the scenes that were in, pretty creepy, but visual effects-wise, could have been much better. But still, this movie does get pretty creepy, and when it does, it is on its A game. So I can't really hate this film, if you understand my reasonings going on here, because this movie, direction-wise, at times, it gets really great. Ridley Scott can direct a great film. It's just that some portions of this movie felt like Ridley Scott was kind of off a little bit. Especially with how the characters were treated. Even though the acting was great, it still, for the most part, can't make up for the lack of characters going on. Although Michael Fassbender does make up for some of it. Michael Fassbender is really that great in this film. It's so interesting watching him perform in this movie as the android. He's so fascinating. I've come to the conclusion that I can't really hate on this film. It does answer some of the questions we had in Prometheus, and the alien, when it shows up, even though the visual effects aren't that great, those scenes are pretty suspenseful and the gore is awesome. So overall, as far as positives, acting was great, visual effects, for the most part, except for the xenomorphs, were great. Direction-wise, at times, were really great, and certain scenes stood out immensely as really freaking awesome. And the cinematography also looked gorgeous, and the score by Jed Kurzel, I think that's his name, he did a really great job with this score here. As far as the flaws go, though, the characters are all lacking. A lot of this movie felt kind of draggy to me. And also, there are a couple moments, it's not like they're littered throughout the film, but there's a couple moments where the characters makes really stupid choices. I think the visual effects for the xenomorph could have been better. I think overall, a lot of this movie felt very familiar. But overall, really what I think it comes down to is, would I watch this film again? And I think yes, there's definitely a lot to ponder on. They bring up an interesting storyline that is really fascinating and does make you want to rewatch it. I'm not sure if this is the kind of movie where when I once see it, I'm going to change the grade when I see it a second time. Like for Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, I first did my review, gave it a B, and I thought about it a little bit more and I bumped it up to a B+. I mentioned it in the box office talk for that one. But for Alien Covenant, I'm not sure, honestly. I don't know if I see it again or if I think about it a little bit more, if the grade will go up, or maybe my grade could go down. But here's where I'm going to stick at. I'm going to give Alien Covenant a B-. Sorry for the unstructuredness of this review, but it kind of had to be done because I honestly, before pressing record on this camera, I still didn't really have a full grasp on what the grade was going to be, so I kind of had to go through each factor and explain it to you guys. And it's really going to be hard to recommend this movie to anyone. Like for example, if you want to see a full-blown Alien film, you're not going to get that for a lot of it, but if you really do want to see a full-blown Prometheus sequel, you're also not going to get that for the majority. It is a blend of both, and you're either going to be disappointed by one aspect and then love another, hate all of it, or actually love it. And me, I'm mixed all the way through. It really just depends on who you are, so I would say go see this film if you're interested, decide for yourself if you actually like it or not, because it's definitely not a bad film, just for me, very underwhelming because this was really anticipated for me and I honestly was expecting a lot more from this film instead of just kind of the same old. Well directed though. But what did you think of Alien Covenant? If you saw it, leave it in the comments below what you thought of it. And as always guys, thank you guys for watching. Make sure to subscribe. I'm Jackson Fulcher. See you guys next time.